Hello everyone, and welcome to this series on Ui5 development and getting started on local. In this video I will show you how to get started, in particular with a dev container, and also using the Ui5 tooling to get started and developing locally. I just want to show you quickly what I have. So I've got a abap trial system running inside a Docker container that's connected to a network that I've named SAP. That's a bit important for something later, and that's really pretty much it for now. So let's get started. So let me just bring this up. What I'll do first is just create a temp folder and then just open up VS Code inside it. Just close all that, and let's just get started on the right. The folder instead. There we go. And let me bring. That's fine. Let me just make this slightly bigger. All right. So I've got an extension called remote containers, which search here, remote containers, allows me just to use Docker containers to do my development, so that enables you to run different extensions, in particular on VS Code, depending on if you want to do some abap, if you want to do some Ui5, etc., and they don't sort of interact with each other. We're going to start simply by the remote containers added development container. First, it will ask you for is what configuration you want. So, for example, we want to use Node and TypeScript. So I will develop the Ui5 app in TypeScript. The Node version, so we'll do the latest one, and then really what other features you want. So Git, for example, an SSH server if you want that to remote into. I'll be checking off this lightweight desktop that allows you to VNC or similar to remote desktop inside your Docker container, so you can see what's going on in there if you want to. I have in the best TV kitchen fashion already prepared some, so let me just go back and into another folder, and let's open that instead. Yep, okay. So I've got my dev container here. Let me just remove this. This is from my previous. I've got a .dev container here, which is the output that you get when you run that command that I ran before. I have a Docker file where I've added in, so everything here is very standard. And the last command here is just saying, alright, login as node and npm install yo and generator ui5. Let's also do the ui5-cli. In the dev container, you can see that it's specified that it wants to run from a Docker file. The variant here is our node variant. Extensions here is where we want to have what extensions we want auto installed. So for me is lint, some bookmarks, my own theme, get graph, Prettier, the Fiori tools extension pack, the Ui5 language assistant, so this is for autocomplete inside XML files, etc. TypeScript TS plugin, and then an API reference, which allows you to show the SDK directly inside VS Code, which is quite handy. The last one is the OData mock generator. I won't be using that for now, but that's pretty good to have. Well, we also have support ports, so these two are what I get from Fluxbox. The last two here is for the local dev. The remote user that we want to use, the features, so Git, the SSH, and the desktop light. Last here is the run argument, so this is in particular to the, similar to running a Docker run with an additional parameters. So we wanted to auto join the SAP network, Docker network that I've created. Alright, Alright, so let's just rebuild and reopen that. Just close all this. So in the logs here we will see that it's running, and because I've done it before, it's running pretty fast. It will now just add in the CLI as well that we need. Alright, so it's soon finished. I just paused the video here so you didn't have to wait together with me. Hopefully it'll be done soon, and then it will open up inside our dev container. One of the other benefits of running it in dev containers is that if you want to install other stuff inside the dev container that you don't want to have access to outside, it's pretty isolated, and if you stuff up something, it's just a matter of restarting the container, etc., which is pretty handy. I was just going to install all the other features. So this is now installing the Fluxbox, the SSH, and the Git stuff. So you can see the Git version coming here. Hopefully that's not going to take too long. Alright, while we wait for that, let's just go and talk a bit more about what all stuff we're going to do. So it was auto-installing Yeoman and the generator, Ui5 Generator. If we search for easy Ui5 Generator. So the easy Ui5 Generator is, as I mentioned, a Yeoman generator. It's now it's completely open source. There's a fair few of the community contributing to it as well. I use it pretty much to sort of scaffold up all my my apps because it's just very easy to set up. So you run your command, and then it just allows you to scaffold up an app quite simply. So lately they've added in the TypeScript as well, which is pretty cool. So that's the one I'll be using today to get started. We will also use the Ui5 Tooling. If you're not familiar with that, it's SAP's own CLI, so command line interface to really help and get started on local development, as well as what's running behind the scenes in BAS, the Business Application Studio. It allows you to run different middlewares, which we'll be using for the server. It also has custom tasks when you want to build, so when you run a build command, it will minify and create a component preload file, potentially also deploy to your SAP system, etc. We'll be using two middlewares today. So one called Ui5 middleware simple proxy. So the simple proxy is a way for the Ui5 tooling to, when you send a request to localhost, when you run your app, it will then intercept that call and then proxy it off to your SAP system, for example. The other one that we will use is, let's see if we can find it here, the one login one. The one login is one that I created, published not long ago, as you can see. What that does is it basically allows you to authenticate against any sort of SAML simple basic authentication as well. So instead of having to try and set that up via the proxy, which most have today, this is not really supposed to be proxying, but just fetching that login cookie and then passing it on to the actual proxy. So I've tested that with the Azure ID, Google, OpenAM, which is a SAML IDP, and then just the standard SAP Gateway login pages. So when you want to log into the Fiorilaunchpad, if I run into, try to go to my own system, it's running on port, yeah, that's the normal login page that you receive when you log in. So I think I already have a cookie. Alright, let me just sign out here. to a private browsing instead. See. There we go. So I don't have a certificate. If you want to get rid of that error, I have another video on that. But this is the login page that I'm talking about. The other video is about how you can install quite easily add in a certificate for your system. You do need your own domain though. Alright, let's shut that down. And then let's see how we're going here. So that's still building. Alright, I'm just going to pause the video and get back to you in a bit. Okay, the container is now finally installed. It's installed all of our extensions, as you can see, and we're running safely inside. So let's just go in, and then I'll run Ui5, which will start up the Yaml generator. So now we don't want to send any statistics. We will run the TypeScript app. So this will just pull down the TypeScript generator and allow us to scaffold up our Ui5 app. I've already mentioned the plugins that we're going to use today as well. So this video is not really about how to start and what to develop in Ui5. I'm just going to show you some of the middlewares. To start with, we're just going to do a simple one with a no data service and a simple list. In a later video, I will show you some component reuse and why it's cool to use some of this tooling as well, and in particular why I decided to create the one login as well. So we now have our generator running. I'm just gonna default everything here, and that's gonna npm install. And then I'll just go and fetch another install command to get the plugins. So once this is done, we will just see into that library and then install the other plugins as well. So as you can see, currently it's just installing the node modules, but what we'll have in here is we've got a package.json file with some scripts to build, to watch. I'll come into the watch, I'll talk about that a bit later. Some dev dependencies available to transpile from TypeScript to our Ui5. As you can see here, I don't have the familiar web app folder, I just got a source folder. That's because inside the source folder is where I have the TypeScript. When you run the watch command, that will then input the source folder and output a web app folder with JS instead. We've got some toolings, so currently just the live reload. What we'll do now is, I'll just see into that library. So I'll install npm install D for adding it to the dev dependencies, the symbol proxy, and the one login. So that's going to take a little while, in particular the one login, because that installs a npm package called Playwright, which is used typically for test automation. So you might be familiar with Puppeteer or with Selenium. It's a similar thing. I just find Playwright extremely easy to write and work with. And I've developed the login handler of the one login inside Playwright. So I'll show you how that works in a bit. For now, we're just going to wait for that. I'm just going to pause the video again and then get back to you in a bit. Right, back again. As you can see, I'm not sure why it failed before, but I just reran the command and now it's completed. So that's good, that's what we want. So as you can see in here now, it's added these different middlewares to our dev dependencies. I will just add those down into our Ui5 dependencies. So adding them down here will allow the Ui5 tooling to recognize them as middlewares. Now we need two other things. So the first is the Yaml file here. So this is the one that's used to run the Ui5 tooling. You see there's two in here. There's a dist and a YAML. So the dist is for when you've compiled your code and minified it. So that's just from this scaffolding. You can have as many YAML files you want, run them differently. So this one, it will run framework. So the framework is using Ui5 and these different packages or libraries. So running that directly from your local computer instead of having to fetch them online. And the server here is adding in these custom middlewares. So currently the live reload, which allows it to auto refresh the browser whenever you're doing changes to your source code. We will add a few more in here. Let me just find the code for that. So we will again. Here we go. So we will add the one login. So the one login, as I mentioned, will do the login and fetch the login cookie, and then pass that on to the simple proxy, and the simple proxy will tell or will intercept anything that we try to call with the path of SAP and pass that on to our server. So because I've added this dev container into my network, SAP network, so if we go here and we just find, let me just get back into container. Sorry, I was just reading a blog while I was waiting for my stuff to complete. So inside my network here, see how we have this H4H, that's our SAP system, and now I have this awesome Röntgen, which is the current dev container that we're in. So that's the host name of our Docker container running on SAP. So it's not the vhcal, which you might be familiar with when you run it. It's just A4H in this. So let's save that. Secondly, what we need is for the one login to work, we need to pass in some credentials. So you can do that in different ways. The most secure way is to have a .env file, and in that .env file you have a Ui5 middleware login URL, which is also going to be A4H. So this will just open up the Fiorilaunchpad, and then it will use this username and that password. So these are just the standard passwords and username from the when you install the Docker container. These are also mentioned inside the on the npm package itself. So in the README file here, you'll see here they're mentioned as well. Alright, so that's what we need. We've added it. Now let's just, for fun, make sure that it actually works. So inside the manifest, we will add a hold hour service. So we will use the GW basic hold hour service in this example. So because that runs from that URI, that will then pass it on and onto our SAP system. So I'll just create a default model as well. So that's here. Yep. And then inside the view, we will just replace what we've got here with a standard list. So a list going after sales order set, entity set, and a list item just showing the sales order ID. So that's what we need. Now let's go and first of all do the watch TypeScript. So that will compile everything that we have in the source folder and put it into the web app folder. So in the web app folder we now have the JS files. And we also need to start our server. So this will start the Ui5 server, the tooling server. So this will install the packages that was mentioned inside the YAML. So these different packages. So if you want to add more, so sap.f or layout, whatever it might be, you just add them here in the array, and then it will auto install them when you rerun. So when you run stuff locally, you will want to install those packages, otherwise it's going to fail. So now you can see it started the URL, it did open up my browser, and it fetched the cookie. So fetching cookie, hang on, and what we see here is all the sales orders. So as you can see, we didn't have any authentication or any login prompts or anything. I just want to show you exactly what's going on behind the scenes here. So if I just close that down again, what I'll do is I will set this flag to true, and then I will come in here and just VNC into our dev container. So let me come on. Alright. Oops. That's going to be a bit hard for you to see. I'm only using 2/3 of my screen, so if you're following me on Twitter, I just lately showed my setup of working on a 49-inch ultra-wide monitor. So I just want to show you what's actually going on when it's working like this. So if I run npm run start Ui5, what's going on here? Npm run start Ui5, here we go. So it's going to start up the server again, and then it will open up the browser. While it's opening up the browser, this is what's going on inside our container. So it's actually opening up the login page, authenticating, and when it's done, it will close down the browser again, and then pass on that cookie to our local browser and our Node.js middleware. Alright, so that's what's going to happen when you run it. Alright. I think that's pretty cool, but maybe that's just me. So I'll just add this to false again, because we don't really want to see that every time. It just adds a bit of overhead as well. So next, what we want to do is let's just add some config to deploy. We will use another login for our task for that. So Ui5 task, I think it's called deploy if I'm not mistaken. Yep, NW abap deployer. So let's just first get it installed. While it's installing, let's just go down and fetch the config. So basically, most of this is sort of set up in the same way. So we can see the dev dependencies here. So this is on the package.json. We need the deployer as a Ui5 dependency for the CLI, and then so this is for the builder, not for the server. But let us add that in. So the Ui5, after the version info, it will deploy to A4H 5000. We don't need any custom parameters. You can set this up, I think, via the .env as well, but I don't really care in this video. Let's just, oops. I think this was correct, wasn't it? Just come from there. So the package, that's just going to be $temp. We'll call this sets parent app, because we want to do some component reload or reuse in a later stage. Okay, now if we go back here, I think there should be a build command. So let's run, let's see, if we run the build, it's going to run build TS and then build Ui5. So yep, let's run now. So this is now trying to deploy. So we've got this folder in here, I believe. We should have at least. Oh, it's a lot of errors. Let's have a look. No service found. Okay, so the service that is needed, so this abap repository server isn't enabled on my system. So let's just log in. And go to IWFMD, make service to enable the OData services. And let's have a look. Abap. No. Let's see, do we have it in here? Maybe online, but I don't think I can see it. Let's put on the namespace. Ui5. Nope. Okay, so it needs to be in here somewhere. There you go. Because I've got the technical name, so I'll just add that as local. Okay, now if I go back, that's being set up. When you set it to co-deploy, it just means that you don't have to maintain a system alias, which is fine and easy when you're using it on the same system. Now let's try and rerun our script here. So that's the watch. Now run the build again. Okay, so now it's got complaining about the antivirus. So inside the IMG, this is a system I just installed this afternoon, hence why it might complain in a bit non-foreseen fashion. We'll keep it simple here and just deactivate the profile, the virus profile. Let's see if I can remember where it is. There we go. Switch off. Let's try and run again. Might need to recompile some stuff now as well. While we're waiting for that, we can just get the name of our app because we need that inside the Launchpad. So the next thing we're going to do is I want to show you how you can use the local Ui5 tooling and proxy off the Fiorilaunchpad. So basically running a server-side Fiorilaunchpad inside the local host, which means that when you're doing component reuse especially, you don't have to maintain any of those dependencies. So if you're coming from WebID, you might recall having the new.json file, where you would have to sort of create an entry for each path that you want to proxy off. That was pretty annoying, and you also had to do that previously inside like using local dev, but that's now gone. So let's set up a catalog and a root file developer, and we'll add it in afterwards into a role, just so we can see it inside the Launchpad when we open it. I'll wait for that. Let's just go. Yeah, let's just add the role while we wait. So we'll just keep it simple and create a. Actually, let's just use the developer role here. So I just want to check to see. Yep, that's added to our developer, so that's perfect. That's what we want. For some reason, this also always takes quite a while to load up. Let's just try and refresh it. See if that makes it go faster. That looks a bit better. Okay, so we'll create a new catalog. And a new tile. Keep it simple. Launch times app. Just find any semantic object if there's anything in here. For some reason it's not. Just copy one from one of the others. Okay. Yep. Title says current app. I don't really want to go into too much details of what I'm doing here. I hope you are familiar with that already. Otherwise, there's plenty of blogs to look at how to set up and work with the Launchpad. So we will need the URL. So this is where our app was deployed under. So that's sap bc Ui5 sap slash, and then let's just see what we call the app. So that's inside here. Set parameter. Now we need the name. There we go. So we'll go and add a group as well. Done. Alright. We'll add these two into our role. Not a PSP application, but a catalog. So test. And then the group. Go. So if we now go just to check out, see if we can see the app that we just deployed. Bear in mind I'm still running on the server. So we have here our app, which is not looking very tidy, but at least it shows us a list and everything's good. Cool. Now we want to run this not from here, so we don't have to deploy every time. We want to use our local development to see our application. So what we need is, first of all, a command to run that. So I have that prepared as well. I think. that here. No, alright, so what we'll do is it's actually added inside the Fiori tool. So if we want to say add Flp Embedded Configuration, that should hopefully add in. I'm doing that. No. Okay, that should have added in the stuff in here that we need. I'll just find the command that we need. So we need a path to add to our open. Just bear with me. Alright, I managed to find what I was looking for. So what we need is a new script. So this is going to run the Ui5 serve. We don't need the H2. I don't need the config because that's just on standard. But what we want is this open command to say we want to open up the SAP BC. So basically we run the launchpad inside. Next thing we need is in the YAML here, we just need to add in a few more entries, in particular to our symbol proxy, because we want to tell the symbol proxy to exclude the pattern of our parent app. So if we don't have this exclude pattern here, it will also run the minifile and basically the component preload of our app, which means that we can't just live code it and test it, etc. So we don't want to have to deploy, that's why we run it that way. Alright, let's see now if this is working, fingers crossed. So we're not going to use the start Ui5 anymore, we're just going to run this FLP script instead. So it's fetching the logon cookie. And it's now starting to load up. So as you can see, we're still running on localhost on port 8080, but it's now opening up our server-side launchpad inside. So this is what you saw before. We have our test parent app. So all the other apps, if I open those up, they will still be running from the server, which means also any dependencies will be responsible here. So if you want to test your app in sort of a greater application flow, you can do it this way as well. Any cross-app navigation, etc. will work as well. If we click it and we check inside the source folder, so sources here, we will see, oops, so currently the parent app is not proxying, or it's not local, loaded from local. So you can see it's just loading up the preload file here. That's because I've got a typo in my YAML file. I've added it with a capital Z on the path there. So let's just go and fix that. So parent app. Let's try and run that instead, and then hopefully that will work. Let's just set that off and bring it to the side. Sure why it's not showing us anything, but what we can see in here, let's see if we got the right one. So let's see, do we have it here? Component preload, so it still loads our pattern here in the wrong place. So I'm just going to copy that and paste it in to see if I can fix it. So we don't need that one. Ah, yeah, I know why we're not, why it's not working now. Sorry, it's because I also need another plugin, or another middleware. Sorry, called serve static. Because when we're not loading it from here, what we want to do is we want to say, okay, well, when this path is coming, we just want to serve it from our web app folder. So we have another path that we want to add in. Let's see, just bear with me, I'll just find it. So the serve static, as the name says, it will serve any file from your local file system. So you can use it for if you want to download the resources as well if you want. Just going to add it here. So we run this after the one nugget in as well. Shouldn't matter too much. So the mount path is going to be sap PC parent app. One slash, and then we want to send that off to our .web app folder. So dot means current library, and then the web app folder. So now let's try and run the Flp command again. That's not what I call it. I'm in the wrong space, that's fine. Let me just double check something. I don't think I've added it to the right. Oh, as you can see, I added it to the wrong folder here because I wasn't in the right folder when I was in here. So let me just go into our actual app, run the install command again. And now we've got it. And let's just add that down here. Still have it in here. Yep. Cool. Let's try again. Alrighty. Fingers crossed it's going to work this time. Is still fetching it from there. So our proxy is still intercepting it even though it shouldn't. Just bear with me, I'll just find the error on this. Alright, I'm back again now. Found the error. I think it was just basically a caching error, caching mistake. So what I added in the debug, the web debugger, show it was the flag to disable the cache. So inside the network here, I've just added that disable cache flag. And when the system is finally up again, so still running everything locally, serving the server-side launchpad locally, and hopefully now, when we pop it in there, we should see that it's fetching our local component and the web app folder instead of the other stuff that we wanted. So let's just see if I added it. Yeah, so you can see it here, it's loading up the local files. I'm not sure why it's not showing up in here for some reason. I'll just try and reopen it. Sources. That's much better. Now we can see the app. It's actually allowing us now to debug directly from within our TypeScript. So we can set the breakpoints, etc. If we go and change something, so if we go to our source folder and let's go into the main here, so we have a hello button. It says hello world. Let's say hello SAP. So that's reloading. So that's recompiling now via the watch command, and then also hopefully I don't have that button anymore, so I just need to add that as well. So let's just add that up. What was you might have some issues with the live reload when you're running it like this, so just reload the change manually. So we've got the button now, I haven't added any text to it, but as you can see we've got the new change command and we haven't even deployed. So that was it for this video. In the next video I will show you how you can do some sorry, it's getting late here. So component reuse, starting using it locally and now serving it directly from within the embedded launchpad here. And then I'll also show you a few other tricks in regards to just prettifying your code, etc, etc. Thanks for sticking in with me. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.